Trapper Keeper the game. This is a simple game of set collection. It is pretty much as straightforward as a set collection can be, which is each turn you pick up usually 3 cards from a set of available cards. You put them in your personal folder, and at the end of the game you score them. As simple as that. The theme is school with a lot of references from the 1980s, 1990s, starting from the box and starting from the name of the game. Also, the cards have a lot of flavor texts that seem to come out of the books in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. A lot of the homework seems like was written by Greg Hafley. And, well, I'm familiar with that series maybe more than I like to because of my daughters. They're constantly listening to those audiobooks. But I digress. Trapper Keeper. At its heart, it is a card game, if nothing else, because most of the game components are cards. However, again, you don't have a hand of cards. You pick up cards and you score them at the end of the game. You have 81 main cards. They're called the school paper cards. You shuffle them in a single deck, and then you make 9 stacks of 9 cards each in a grid like the one that you see here, and you flip the top card of each stack face up. Then you have a deck of bell cards. You shuffle them together. You draw 6 randomly, and you form a face-down stack. You reveal the first one that will be available for this turn. We'll see in a minute available for what. And then at the end of the turn, you will discard this card. So actually, then you reveal another one. That also means that this deck of cards works as the countdown clock, because when the last one is discarded, at the end of the 6th turn, the game is over. Each player also gets a nice little fancy folder that also acts as a player aid. Simplicity itself. When it is your turn, you take 3 cards from the ones that are available. You can take 3 cards in a single row, 3 cards in a single column, or 3 cards following the pattern indicated here. In this case, that would be it. The cards, if you're the first player to get cards, will be all face up. And suppose that I decide here that I want to take these 3 cards. If it is entirely possible that you will take cards that are face down. Suppose the next player decides to take the cards from this column here, and then the next player wants to take these cards here. You don't turn the cards face up immediately. When fewer than 4 cards are face up in the grid, that is when you reveal the top of each stack, so that 9 cards are available again. And this is the heart of the game. Now, when you get a set of cards, you put it in your folder. You can put it on the left side, you can put them on the left side, on the right side. You have to put the cards you take in a turn all together. So either all here or all here. This will be important because at the end of the game you will score the doodles that you see here, and basically by placing them in one side rather than another, you're committing. If I place these cards on this side here, then this will be the doodle that will be visible at the end of the game when we score and therefore available. If I place them on this side here, then these are the doodles that will be available. And I decide, for example, to put them here. Cards that don't have doodle, doesn't really matter where they go. During the game, you can always look at the cards that you already have, but you cannot rearrange them, you cannot shift them. Suppose then next turn I decide to take these cards here, and I decide to put them here, and so on and so forth. And maybe later I do this. Now we should need to flip those cards face up, but it doesn't really matter because I'm just trying to give you a sense of how the game works. At the end of the game, again, the game is over when we go through 6 turns. At the end of the game, we score the cards. Each player scores the cards that they have in their folder. And the cards score in different ways. That can be a little overwhelming at first, but here you have a good player. Now, the first thing that you do actually is you score the doodles. Again, you take the cards out, facing them differently based on the side on which you put them, like so. But once you determine which doodles are visible, then red and blue don't matter. They all get together. Then we look at this very useful score sheet and we go through each doodle and we see who among the players has the most. So who has the most hearts? Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 5 hearts that are visible, and maybe my daughter Louisa has 6 and another player has 2. The player with the most of each doodle scores 5 points, and the second player scores 2 points. Everybody else, nothing. Too bad for them. Then we continue like this and we check faces. I have 0. S's, I have 3, 5. And so on and so forth. And we continue like this for each doodle. Again, giving 5 points to the player with the most and 2 points to the next player. Quizzes. Quizzes are what I like to call the Mackie roll of this game, meaning they score in a similar way similar to how Mackie rolls score in Sushi Go. The player has the most homework, scores 6 points. The second player scores 3. Then we have the quizzes. The quizzes are pretty much self-explanatory. They simply are worth the number of victory points indicated here at the bottom. Detention. The player with the most detention notices scores 0 points. Otherwise, all other players score 2 points for each detention notice they have. Because being edgy makes you cool, but not too much. Not too much. Signatures. Do I have any signatures here that I can show you? Where are they? I thought I had one. Signatures per se. Oh, there it is. Parental signature. Signatures per se are worth nothing. They don't do anything. And so are field trip slips that are worth nothing. But for each pair of signature plus field trip, then you score 4 points. And then we have the report cards. Where are the reports? Reports. This may sound a little weird, but that's not too bad. Each report card is worth nothing unless you pair with a signature. Each pair of report plus signature is worth a number of points equal to the number of homeworks that you have. So this is my collection of homeworks. Each pair, such as this one, will be worth 3 points for me. If this is how many I have, each such pair is worth 4 points. Finally, we have the notes. The notes from friends. You want to have notes from as many people as possible, so because that makes you popular. Then you place them in sets from different people. See, I have Archer, Lily, and Zuzu. And I see here, this set of unique notes contains notes from 3 people. Therefore, that's 6. If these are all the notes that I have, then these 3 form a set, and this one forms a separate set. It's a set of 1, and so it's worth only 1. And this is how the game works. You collect points from every source, from all of these different types of cards. I don't think I forgot any. And then at that point, the player with the highest score is both the coolest kid in school and the winner of the game. Trapper Keeper is a really fun game. It is super simple. You can think of it as a filler, but it's a game that travels well. You can teach it easily. You can play with adults. You can play with kids. It is just that simple and intuitive. I've been playing a lot with my daughter Louisa, who is currently 7, so that also tells you this is a game that is not too complicated to play for kids, and she really likes it. It's probably her new favorite game, and she's actually pretty good at it. She sticks to a couple of known strategies. She really does not like to get detention notices, which incidentally is not a bad strategy. When we play two players, then I know she's not going to get any unless she gets one because she's randomly getting a face down card, which she will avoid to do every time that she can. And so now it's not like, oh, I'm going to collect a couple and see if I'm still the one, I'm not the one with the most. That strategy doesn't work. In fact, it is a game that, for something so simple, has still some interesting decisions that you can make. One is to push your luck. If there are signatures early on available, that usually it is a good idea to get them. But then maybe they're not there yet, and there are report cards and there are field trip slips that are tempting, but then what if the signature cards don't show up, or they show up when it's not your turn to take cards and somebody else does, especially if somebody else has noticed that you were collecting those cards but you did not have the signatures yet. It might have, in that sense, a little bit of take that, but it's still very, very indirect, unless you decide to, I don't know, sing a song like nee, 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 nee. It's very indirect. I'm taking signatures because also may benefit me, but in the back of my mind I also know that in fact I'm depriving you of that resource that you may want. I'm also maybe keeping an eye out to see what kind of symbols, what kind of doodles you're collecting, and try to get a sense of where it is that it's a lost cause. I shouldn't just get a lot of those, and where instead I can win, I can still get a good result. I like also that fact that it's pointless to pile up on a single kind of doodle, because if you have the most by a huge margin, you're still gonna score the same amount of points that you score if you have the most by a much smaller margin. So I'm trying to diversify to do okay or good in a bunch of categories. So it's a game that has, again, a push a luck element because you don't know which cards will be available, and you do not know if the players notice what you're trying to do. It has some interesting decisions. It's very tactical. It's about reacting to what you find on the board at that time, of course, but it also has some, not maybe long-term planning, but some medium-term planning. And again, don't take it too seriously. The humor that is on the card will help you, I believe, take the game for what it is, which is a really light, simple filler. A game which is not specifically for children, but you can play it with children. It's a light game. It plays fast, it plays so intuitively and smoothly. Maybe the one thing sometimes when we score, I had the impression the scoring almost takes as long as playing the game. It's not something that I mind so much when the game lasts 10 minutes and then scoring maybe takes 6 or 7, and then we can play again. But definitely it is a game that I find very pleasant. May not be the deepest, may not be the most subtle game out there, but it is a game that is a lot of fun to play when you're looking for a light, simple set collection game, and that to me is good enough. Trapper Keeper, the game. I'm very glad that I got to try this game. I'm very glad it's in my collection because I'm always looking for fun, simple, elegant fillers to play with my friends, and Trapper Keeper responds to that description.